On July 10, 1981, Ken Rex McElroy was shot to death in his truck in front of a bar in broad daylight in the middle of Skidmore, Missouri. There were dozens of witnesses, however, this case is still unsolved and remains one of the most bizarre unsolved homicides in Missouri history. So let's take a look at the events that led to his death. Ken Rex McElroy was born on June 1st, 1934 to poor immigrant farmers. He was either the 15th or 16th child. It isn't clear which, but I think we can all agree that's a lot of kids to support. He dropped out of school at 15 years old and began his life of crime. He was known for stealing cattle, alcohol, gasoline, grains, antiques, basically anything that wasn't bolted down. He was suspected and caught for most of these crimes, but he used good old-fashioned intimidation and violence to scare people into dropping charges or not testifying against him. As he made more money from his crimes, he was able to hire a Kansas City lawyer named Richard Gene McFadden. This lawyer was instrumental in keeping McElroy perched on his throne of wrongdoings and happily represented and assisted McElroy for years. In June of 1973, McElroy was indicted for arson, assault, and statutory rape. The victim, Trina McLeod, was 12 years old when McElroy met her and repeatedly raped her over the course of that time frame. McElroy's infatuation for Tina had him flagging down the school bus and threatening the bus driver so he would let Trina off the bus and into McElroy's custody. At 13, Trina ended up a pregnant child who gave birth to McElroy's child at 14 years old. Trina's parents, who were not on board with McElroy abusing their daughter, forbade the man from coming near her, and this led to McElroy stalking the family, killing the family's dog twice, and burning down their home. This is when Trina's family sent Trina and her newborn baby to a foster home in an attempt to shield her from McElroy. However, this led to McElroy stalking the foster parents and threatening to kidnap their biological daughter if they didn't relinquish Trina and his baby. McElroy finally forced Trina into marriage so that she couldn't testify against him. It should be known that during all of this, McElroy was still legally married to another woman who had been forced into marriage as a child to avoid prosecution for statutory rape. Apparently during this time, you could abuse children however you wanted as long as you married them after the fact. 1970s was a great time for pedophiles, not unlike some areas today, but that's a conversation for another day. Back to this topic. In 1976, another local farmer, Romaine Henry, challenged McElroy for shooting weapons on Henry's property. McElroy shot Henry in the belly, which Henry managed to survive. McElroy was charged with assault with intent to kill. He denied he was at the scene and convinced two of his hunting friends to claim he was with them during the incident. McElroy also stalked and intimidated Henry and his family while McFadden played his scumbag lawyer game and pushed court dates back, all of which added up to McElroy being acquitted. In 1980, one of McElroy's children was confronted by the town store owner's wife for stealing candy. This, of course, made McElroy angry, and so he confronted the store owner, 70-year-old Ernest Bowenkamp, behind the store and shot Mr. Bowenkamp in the neck at close range with a shotgun. Mr. Bowenkamp miraculously survived and McElroy was charged. However, thanks to Mr. McFadden, he was convicted of assault but freed on bail while he waited appeal. This left him the opportunity to make a trip to the local bar with an M1 Garand with fixed bayonet and make loud threats as to what he was going to do to Mr. Bowenkamp with those very items to finish the job. The witnesses were not okay with any of this and immediately went to the police, as they had done for so many years in the past, only to get the same answer. Nothing we can do. Great police work, Sheriff. On July 10th, 1981, the locals were gathered at the American Legion for a town hall meeting specifically pertaining to McElroy, his terrorism, his conviction, and his appeal, which was in progress but being delayed, to which the sheriff suggested that they start a neighborhood watch program. Great police work again. At the same time, McElroy and Trina were at the local bar right down the street having drinks. The bar patrons spread word quickly about McElroy being in the bar, and the citizens from the town hall meeting began to show up at the bar, inside and out, setting the stage for what would come next. And the sheriff left town. Inside the bar, Ken and Trina had been told by some of the townsfolk that they should probably be leaving town. So Ken bought a six-pack, and he and Trina walked out of the bar toward their truck, with the town people watching and following. Seeing the crowd forming around his vehicle once he and Trina were in the truck, McElroy lit a cigarette, and at that point, shots started to ring out. McElroy was hit in the head and neck. No one assisted, no one called for assistance. The townspeople pulled Trina out of the passenger side of the truck to safety, but that was the extent of any help. None of the townsfolk even informed the police of the incident. Trina was the one who had to call them and inform them that McElroy had been shot. Trina, the biggest victim of both McElroy and Skidmore, did name a shooter. However, evidence pointed to more than one shooter, and no one would corroborate Trina's account, nor would they speak about anything they may have witnessed, so the DA did not press any charges and the crime remains unsolved. Trina sued for wrongful death and was awarded $17,000 of the $6 million she asked for. I wonder how much of that ended up in McFadden's pockets. She eventually remarried and died in 2012 of cancer on her 55th birthday. A lot of McElroy's children still live in the area and are followed and tormented by the deeds of their father and the townsfolk. These kids never really got a fair shot, and some deservedly so, others not so much. This case is one of those that make everyone question their morals. On one hand, some say the man got what he deserved, and it was served too late. Others say violence begets violence, and there are a plethora of documentaries on this case. There are some links to some of them below if you're interested in hearing more about this case and the aftermath. Either way, regardless of opinion, this man caused a lot of grief for a lot of people. His work as a thief, a rapist, a pedophile, an animal murderer, and a would-be murderer if his victims hadn't miraculously survived. He ruined several lives and had help in doing so from his very dedicated attorney. The legacy of this case left a dark cloud over the town of Skidmore. Some say it has left a curse on the town that still haunts it more than 40 years later. If you would like to hear more about the tragic events that have plagued Skidmore since McElroy's murder, let us know down in the comments. Did Ken Rex McElroy deserve his fate? It's not for us to decide, but it still makes one hell of a crazy story, and the victims left in his wake shouldn't be forgotten either.